Hey guys, it's me Meteor, and during my blind run of Planet Robot, I had some pretty vocal opinions about the bosses in that game. Granted, some of the bosses in that game were phenomenal, but a lot of them also felt quite samey. People argued that repeat bosses are a staple of the Kirby series, and that I'm not a fan unless I like them. It's true, some bosses in the Kirby series have made countless appearances. However, there's a big difference between a recurring boss and a rehash, and that's what I want to clear up today. Note, I am not talking about EX bosses because those are just harder versions of the bosses we fought in the same game. That's fine. Let's start by talking about everyone's favorite boss on Planet Robot, Hollow Defense Appy. To be quite honest, this boss wouldn't have bothered me nearly as much if it didn't feel like such an absolute cop-out. Considering the first boss we saw brought back the 3D circular arena from Kirby 64, and then you see pics, it's like, oh man, I'm ready for a reboot battle of this boss. I remember Kirby 64 on this 3D rotating platform, I'm all ready to fight this guy. And then you fight hollow beans of things you've already fought before instead. Not to mention 3 out of 4 of those bosses were from the last 2 games with less attacks. They're literally the same exact moveset. I will admit that seeing Ice Dragon again was pretty cool, you know, considering it was the only boss that people didn't spoil for me. Some may argue, why complain about this boss if I don't complain about Adeline? She does the same thing. First off, everything Adeline drew had their own custom sprites and their own moveset. Sure, the moveset was easier, but it was still different than the previous game. The same cannot be said here. Second, we already knew Adeline was a painter, so we knew exactly what she was going to do before she even did it. We saw pics before, and he did something completely different, and they just kinda tacked on a hollow program with it. Instead of using pics, wouldn't computer virus make a lot more sense? Computer virus would keep the technical theme they're going for, would have used these rehash bosses in an original way, and would have also tapped into nostalgia something fierce. But no, they used pics. Then there are some of the other bosses. Susie is basically an easier version of Haltman, Dedede Clone is basically Shadow Dedede times 3, and Meta Knight, well, we'll get back to that. Let's just skip ahead to Meta Knight Returns. Dark Matter Clone is a perfect example of how to reboot something properly. They took an old boss, changed up its moveset completely while still retaining its old moves, and made it a completely new fight. It was great. And then directly afterward, we fought Sectonia Clone. Literally an exact copy of the previous fight we just had in the last game. In fact, her only new move is just a reskin of an old move she used in the last game as well. I'm pretty sure the only reason why they added her in here is just so we could see that little glimpse of her true form at the very end of it. I could easily look past that though. I mean, that boss was clearly just a lead-in to the true final boss, Galacta Knight. After seeing how well they rebooted Dark Meta Knight into Triple Deluxe, and seeing how well they rebooted Superstar Ultra's Galacta Knight into Return to Dreamland, I was really excited to see what kind of new moves they would have given Galacta Knight here. But as it turns out, it's literally the exact same fight from Return to Dreamland. In fact, Galacta Knight's Phase 2 tornado is even easier to dodge than it was in Return to Dreamland. The only real new attack we got was where he rips space and time to create a laser. Except you have like 10 seconds to dodge this attack, and if you do get hit by it, it does chip damage. You have a being who can split space and time, and that's the best you can do with that attack? How about, I don't know, making portals to blast through, similar to Magolor, except more threatening? Have more portals for more lasers. Do something! At the very least, instead of Galacta Knight just flying off and let the attack hit, how about he stays on stage and tries to fight you before the laser hits? Maybe then it would be a threatening attack. You see, I'm completely fine with bringing a character back, so long as you have something creative to do with said boss or character. If you're just going to bring it back and not change anything, then what's the point? Granted, making a boss feel new isn't always a recipe for success. Just look at Mecha Knight. The fight itself wasn't bad, it was somewhat enjoyable, but it didn't feel like Meta Knight whatsoever. Instead of him being quick and agile, they put him in a mech suit that makes him go like 5 miles an hour and has almost all scripted attacks. I was hoping his armor would break in the second fight, but still be controlled so he could fight the true agile self of Meta Knight. I mean, this is sci-fi. They could have done so much. They could give Meta Knight a cloaking device, allow him to teleport, give his laser sword all kinds of tricks. But what they do? They give him a scorpion tail, and give him even more scripted attacks. Overall, Planet Robot was a great game, so I can't get too upset, especially when the developers themselves even admit to some things feeling samey because of it being a sequel. But then we had Team Kirby Clash Deluxe. Contrary to what some people think, I didn't hate this game because of the microtransaction system. I paid well more than that in microtransactions on games I truly enjoy. No, the problem I had with this game is the same problem I had with the original non-deluxe version. Basically, it's just a bunch of bosses we've already fought before, just thrown together with RPG elements and level grinding. It's even worse when the bosses repeat themselves not only once, but twice in the same game. Even if the game was completely free with no microtransactions at all, I still wouldn't have enjoyed it. There were only 2 new fights in this entire game, and while fighting Tyranza head-on was pretty cool, King D-Mind was just Shadow Dedede with a Dark Mind laser. Yay! I loved that fight so much, I even did it a second time. Because I had to. Now wait, some may ask, how could you possibly get upset with Team Kirby Clash Deluxe when Blowout Blast does the exact same thing? You make a good point. Blowout Blast does have recurring bosses, like Kracko Jr. is just an easier version of Kracko, but here's the difference. Everything in Blowout Blast was made from the ground up. The level design was different, it was the first game in 3D for Kirby, and the bosses were used in such creative and different ways that I enjoyed it. I didn't care if they recurred themselves because it was rebooted and done so well. Those who still disagree, let me ask you this. If you had the choice of a Kirby game with all new bosses, all new movesets, the whole 9 yards, or a new Kirby game that had all of the old bosses with the same movesets again, which Kirby game would you prefer? Anyway, I've said my piece. I'm storming out of here. See you guys next time.